Welcome back. It's time for Heresy Thursday, but it's Friday. Look, I know, I'm a day late, but in my defense, yesterday, I was not here. I was not able to cover what is, I think, one of the most over-the-top, extreme Space Marines I've ever seen them do, because I was over at Mikey's place. I was on Hellstorm Wargaming, playing a bit of Age of Sigmar, and I lost horribly. But it was a very fun time. I'm going to link to the battle report in the description so you can go and check it out. I had a blast. Things have been a bit thin on the ground this week, last week. I'm going to do a big update video next week, most likely, along with a stream so we can have a bit of a chat. But for now, we have, a mere 1 day late, a very, very, very fancy Space Marine to take a look at. Like, I'm really not underselling it. This is the Bloodclaw Crow. Not Claw, Crow. Crow. It says it on the screen. Past me, you idiot. Crow. And he's part of the Raven Guard. And just from that little bit of image there, you can see that this is a lad who's got some style. He's got some drip going on. There is so much ornamentation, it's unreal. Like, look at the state of this. I'm not saying this in a bad way, I actually really like it, but this has to be one of the most ornamented, like, Space Marines that Games Workshop have done for quite some time. I'll be honest, right now, no clue what mark of armour that is. I haven't got the faintest idea. Maybe 4? But it's kind of hard to tell. There's a lot of extra gubbins all over the shop. Like, a lot of extra gubbins. We've got lovely patterns carved into the armour. We've got extra reinforcement. We've got, like, sort of trim going for days across the legs and the shoulders. The chest is fantastic, but very different. You know what? Let's just look into the background. Let's look at the background for this lad before we go into the model proper, because that will give us some context for why he is just the way he is. Or at least I hope it does. It'd be a bit annoying if it doesn't. So the Horus Heresy had its fair share of heroes and villains, though some went down in history as pariahs due to their checkered past or for reveling in slaughter. Reveling? One such figure was Kaedes Nex? Sure. The foreboding Moritat-Prime of the Raven Guard. Kaedes had always been viewed as an ill omen by his brothers, as an infamous murderer left to die in the rancid depths of a prison on deliverance. I can't imagine why other people would be like, I'm good. I don't need to be, on the same squad as the infamous murderer. I mean, to be fair, when it comes to deliverance, not that much stock to choose from, I guess, but still, the guy's clearly got a reputation and has done horrible things to start with, so an interesting choice, but it's fine. He was offered an unexpected chance at redemption by a young Corvus Corax on the condition that he put his grisly skills to use on acceptable targets as part of a grueling rebellion against cruel taskmasters. Okay, now, I feel like a little bit more context is needed here. Was he a murderer because he went around murdering people who were doing things that shouldn't have been done and he got caught and sentenced and therefore was, on deliverance because he'd done things against the establishment, as it were? Or is he just a flat-out murderer? Because I feel like the level of redemption that one can achieve is highly dependent on the original crime, Maybe that's just me, but I do like the idea of a guy who is so horrific that everyone else wants nothing to do with him being raised up by one of the Primarchs and just told, yeah, I mean, as long as you brutally murder people that I approve of, we're good. We're squared away. That's fine. Interesting. An interesting backstory. I mean, to be fair, it's Horus Heresy, it's 40k. That sort of thing is hardly anything new or different, but it is quite funny to read it just, spread out like that. Even after his late and thus painful transformation into a Space Marine, he was scarcely tolerated by the rest of his Raven Guard brother. He must have been an absolute wronger. He must have been an absolute wronger. His single-minded obsession with the hunt and the favour shown to him by the Primarch earned him the title the Raven's Huntsman. But despite this distaste, his peerless abilities made him an invaluable asset during covert operations. Thought to have been killed during the Dropsite Massacre, Nex eventually made himself known through a trail of slaughter left across many of the great conflicts of the Heresy. Clad in midnight black, he wields 2 fulcrum hand cannons, excellent, with unerring accuracy, lending his macabre skills to numerous loyalist hosts across the years, with no explanation of his mysterious agenda. There we go. Obviously, resin, but okay, alright. So, we've got murderer turned Space Marine. I was going to say murderer turned hero. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but either way, I'm kind of getting why he's so fancy now. I'm kind of getting why he's so over the top. Why there's so much personalization, so much uniqueness to the model. It seems like he has a reputation to uphold. It also seems like Corax really liked the dude. I really liked the guy. Really was in favour overall in the end. And that level of favour really makes you look at him with slightly different eyes. So many bird skulls. Like, I hadn't twigged just how many there were. So we've got one in the centre of the chest. We've got one on each shoulder, which is clasping the cloak. Then we've got one on each shin. Have we got any more? It's hard to tell. There's only the one picture, apart from the drawn art. So I'm not sure whether he's got more Raven skulls dotted around here or there. I would put money on there being one on the power pack, but I could be wrong about that. It's hard to deny the overall style, though. It is busy. It is quite complicated in some ways. There is a lot of extra detail. You've got a bunch of extra cables. There's the ones plugged into the side, at the front of the breastplate there. That kind of adds a bit. Also, things like the fulcrum hand cannons, which I'm not sure exactly what those are, to be honest with you. I don't know what type of weapon they are, whether it's like a energy weapon, whether it's a form of bolter, I've got no clue. For some reason in the back of my head, I thought the Moritat guys had Volkite of some description, so it could be a version of that. I wouldn't really like to just guess, because I'd probably be wrong. I do like the design of them, they do look good. The two holsters on either side, I quite like the style of that, and the way they're attached to the breastplate is kind of cool. I really like the kind of multi-layered look of the shoulders as well. You've got that detail underneath, and then you've got those segments placed over the top. Clearly we've got a Raven Guard symbol on one side, and then we've got the kind of reinforcement studs on the other. I really, really like that. That gives a nice kind of asymmetry to it, where a lot of the rest of the model is relatively... I mean, when you look at the overall look at it, you've got the two guns, you've got the cape coming over the top. I like the slight differences from left to right. It just breaks it up. It's still very busy, but it's busy in a slightly different way from one part to the next, which is nice. I like that. I'd be curious to know if there is a helmeted head for this guy. I'm assuming probably not, but I feel like, given the background, something with a bunch of lenses would be kind of cool. It's not a bad looking head though, looks alright. I do like the various targeting gubbins and the like sticking out of the power pack, that looks cool. The design on one of the legs, where you've got the big metal wings with the Raven skull in the centre, that's nice. That's fun. I like that a lot. This is another one of those models where there's just a bunch of personality going on. It's not an action pose. We also don't have a particularly heroic pose. We don't have a tactical rock propping one leg up or anything. He's actually just kind of at rest, really. We have got one gun unholstered, but it doesn't look like he's springing up to do something or he's in the middle of some sort of fight. Instead, he looks relatively relaxed, but there's still quite a lot of presence to it, you know? It helps as well that with the extra detail and all the extra stuff going on the armour, he is super bulky. Like, he feels really quite, up-armoured compared to what I'm assuming. I think Mark IV, probably, but I could be totally wrong. It's sort of difficult to tell. It really feels like, especially more recently, they've just been like, okay, we're not going to bother saying, hey, they've got this type of armour. Instead, they've gone, how do we make their armour look unique and different and fun? And that's what they're aiming for. They're not necessarily going for, this is recognisably this specific mark. Instead, they're just like, well, this is a character. A character should have different and cool armour, therefore we will make different and cool armour. What it is kind of irrelevant. I quite like that. I have to admit, given the overall context of the Horus Heresy as a game and a setting, I'm not sure how popular that is necessarily, but I mean, I just like a good Space Marine, and this is a good Space Marine. Also, just a little thing, but like the gorget coming to a little point at the front there, that's a fun detail. That's a fun detail. I like that. There's absolutely no mention of melee weapons in the article, and I can't see any actually on the model either. So it looks like it's all gun or nothing, which, to be fair, Like a gunslinging two-gun Space Marine, there is something inherently just fun and different about that. It's not something you see all that often, so I've kind of got a soft spot for them, you know? I've also only just noticed that he's holding onto the cloak. I don't know why, but I like that detail a lot. I like it. That's something, again, just a little bit different. Just a little bit different to the norm. Overall, I think that is a solid model. As Space Marines go, a bit more fancy than usual. Still very, very Space Marine, but just with enough differences that, yeah, it stands on his own. Stands on his own, this one. So there you go. Let me know what you think of that lad in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.